That was, by the way, that was the highest for live.
Blinds, of course, 300, 600, a straddle of 1,200 from Gus Hansen. Patrick Antonius will be first to act.
12.
I'll just look at my hand and fold as usual.
That's the highest no limit you ever played?
Pass.
No, what, 5 and 10? 5? You never played a hand that was straddled higher?
John Juanda looking down and finding ace-10 of clubs.
6,000.
He makes it 6,000.
Pass.
I think David played ace 16. Did you ever play higher than 5-10 no limit? Like, did you ever have a hand where there was
I mean, I might have been in a
bigger
hand
than-
or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm saying
Thought
one
about
hand.
playing it.
I'm saying one hand. Did you ever play a hand that was straddled higher than, 10,000? No? We had some 8,000s in Bellagio a few months ago.
I'm not gonna lie,
I
that
know,
might
but
have.
I'm saying,
I don't know.
I figured
I
you
don't
would have
remember.
bigger.
I don't even remember.
Matter of fact, I'm definitely, truly gonna be honest. The way this game is playing is absolutely the biggest game I've ever played in.
And 2-4s for Gus Hansen. He's probably going to at least call this.
Probably thinking, is there any value to raising this? Can I take it down pre-flop?
I had to take the last guy. That's tough, isn't it?
I think he might show a lot of respect for John Juanda. I think he'll be happy to see a flop, give himself a chance to flop 3-4s.
6 total, yep.
If I had like Jet 9.
So this
you're
one
right.
is going to be 4 to the flop, 4s, 8s, ace jack, and ace 10. The raiser with the worst hand.
Pot is nearly $25,000.
Jack 10.
Jack 10-9.
I was thinking, I was kind of looking there.
Obviously,
Did you look
it's a scary flop for everybody involved, isn't it? And a pretty ugly flop for Gus Hansen.
I was going to say, it's not too scary for Gus. I think he's going to know his hand's worth absolutely nothing.
That's pretty crazy.
Of course, it looks like an up and down straight for Phil Ivey. But if a queen comes, he might be scared of a king.
Of course, it's a raised pot. Somebody could have king, queen already. Now Helmuth comes out and bets right away.
Cool.
And he bets 13,000. We get a call from Phil Ivey.
Pass.
Oh, we should have done the straddle this hand.
Hansen gone.
I would have been more than happy to stick it.
Pass.
Pardon me, it's actually a $9,000 bet from Helmuth.
7.
Wow, what a 7.
Well, that's the card you want. Like you said, you didn't want to see the queen, but you definitely want to see that 7. It's a great card for Phil Ivey.
But Phil Helmuth checked it.
And Ivey cannot lose this pot. He can only chop it up, and that's if he hits a set of 8s.
It's not really the kind of board you're going to like ace-jack that much with, is it? Let's be honest.
Not much you can beat out there.
30 total.
It could be a 10-queen, something like that. Phil's calling with a pair and an up and down straight.
Well, Ivey bets. He doesn't mess around when he bets. Bets just over $25,000. Now Helmuth has the ace of diamonds in his hand, so might it be less likely that Ivey's making this play with a flush draw?
Yeah, I think that's probably true, but there are so many straight draws out there, so many kind of half-connected hands. He might feel his ace-jack is still good.
We obviously know better. And Phil Helmuth's nightmare continues.
And his problem is, if he thinks he's in front, if he thinks he's got Phil Ivey on a draw, he could move all in here. He's only got 100,000, and that would make the size of the pot 100,000 if he just calls the 30. I could almost forgive him making all 3 plays. Of course, the problem with the all-in, he's only ever going to get called if he's behind. Having said that, I suppose a 10 queen of diamonds would probably call him.
This hand is just oozing with analysis. Pot is $73,000.
All right, I'm all in.
30,000 for Helmuth to call.
All in.
Well, he's announced all in.
He's all
Got
in. Ivy nods his head. He calls this.
That's good.
And Helmuth
We're
needs
on
an 8. Or he is going busto again. Oh, and what a look.
What do you want me to do? I can't believe he can have it every time against me.
Scary button for ace jet, Phil.
What do you want me to do, John? I mean, this guy's been so lucky against me in my life, I can't even take it.
That is not the 8.
He deserves it.
And Phil Ivey wins another pot.
He deserves it. Give me 100.
King queen pre-flop and flop came 9-10 jack that hand, so I don't want to hear anything.
Doesn't matter, whatever. Just if you see someone, tell him.
He deserves it. I mean, what do you want from me?
Oh, it's
I mean,
on me.
I just hope when
Is
the
this a
pots mean
straddle?
something that he doesn't run this good.
Cool.
Scary, man. I mean, so scary.
1,200 to Tom Dwan.
6.
Well, David Benjamin mixing it up a little, just flat calling with his ace-king. Tom Dwan raising it up with queens. And Phil Helmuth possibly steaming a little, calling on the button.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely possible.
Trying to see a flop with the 10-9 of clubs, trying to get something to work for him.
And he's down $300,000.
26 total.
And a re-raise from David Benjamin to 26,000. This pot could get huge.
Now we saw Dwan low down. He laid down queens pre-flop earlier. I'm not sure he's going to do it here though.
It's 26,000 total.
And Benjamin makes it 26,000 total. So it's another 21,000 to Dwan.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was-
And he calls this.
Cool.
Oh, and these guys are going to battle out again. Phil Helmuth throws his cards in the muck in disgust. And it's heads up. Tom Dwan versus David Benjamin.
Queen, 6.
Pot is
7.
60,000.
Wow,
Oh.
what a flop for Tom Dwan. If he can just leave David Benjamin up front, this could be a monster.
Benjamin needs some sort of running cards to win this one. Running spades or running straight cards. Dwan with top set. Pot is nearly $61,000.
35.
And he bets 35,000.
I'll tell you what, Dr. Ivy, they just don't know who you are.
35,000 into 60,000, just a little bit over half of the pot.
I pity anybody that
And what is the move here? What does Dwan do?
Well,
He's
to
got
be honest,
top set.
there's not really a lot that he's going to be scared of. He can't give David Benjamin with any kind of flop. But the question is, if he gives him aces or kings, making it 100,000 here is going to get him well and truly paid.
cemented in with unbreakable.
Looks like he's going to call. He's seen David Benjamin bury himself in a couple of other pots.
Well, this pot is now 130,000, nearly 131. The 5 of clubs means nothing, and now Benjamin is drawing dead.
Check.
He cannot win this pot unless Dwan folds, and we both know that's not going to happen.
Now
Dwan's
Tom
got
Dwan, yeah, he's just going to be unlucky that David Benjamin hasn't managed to catch a card to lose any more money with.
Well, Dwan's got him right where he wants him. Now it's just a matter of how does he maximize the value of this hand? Can he get paid anymore from Benjamin?
Well, we know, seeing the cards, he's going to have to give David a chance to at least catch up a little bit. If he gives him 10s, jacks, he possibly thinks he could get a bet and a call here.
Both players started this hand incredibly deep. Dwan started with 400.
Well, he's checked it. The 3 on the river does not help Tom Dwan. David Benjamin's bluffed off over 100,000 recently.
Now, there's a one-liner to a straight. Are you scared of the 4 in this case, or no?
I think you just have to take a chance with 3 queens.
You could have 500,000 in front of you in the next 10 minutes.
Pot
Just
nearly
might
100.
mean you don't re-raise, that's all.
Easily be dead there.
Pot's nearly 131,000. Benjamin trying to figure it out. Is there any way he can win this pot?
Well, he's checked it.
Top 2 or
I think he's decided to release this pot. He's just checked it.
And what a reverse of fortunes. Benjamin had Dwan's number all day long, but recently, Dwan has been getting the better of him. Dwan thinking of how he can get paid. Another big pot at the $1 million cash game. It's amazing how routine these $100,000 pots have become in this game.
Man, I screwed up. I gave the girlfriend the credit card to go shopping. She's still out.
And it looks like a $94,000 bet.
I never did get my espresso.
Well, he's had both Tom Dwan and Phil Ivey make calls against him with ace high. Maybe he feels like he can make the call himself.
The pot is $224,000, $94,000 to call. Certainly he can't call with ace king, can he?
We've already seen it today.
But $94,000? Can he call that with ace king?
You can certainly try. I think he thinks it's unlikely that Tom Dwan's going to make this bet with a kind of a 6 or a 7. So we just can't see what he's checked the turn and made the bet on the river with.
Remember, he did call a monster raise pre-flop. He could have aces or kings here. I mean, if he calls this, it's kind of a hero call, isn't it? I mean, Gary, you're the high-stakes player. Talk us through this one.
Well, I just don't think he can give Tom Dwan a hand right now. He doesn't know what he's checked on the turn. It has to be an everything or nothing, especially with 4 cards to a straight there.
Phil, if you ever beat him a pot, forget
And how can he have a 4 in his hand, calling a bet on the flop with 6-7?
Now, we saw Tom Dwan confuse Patrick Antonius earlier by checking on the turn when he had that full house. And he
That's
got paid
exactly
off.
correct. And it looks like the same trick might be working against David Benjamin.
Remember, Tom Dwan just called a raise pre-flop, called the bet on the flop, checked the turn, and now is bet big. He certainly hasn't represented strength until now.
That's either going to be the biggest call ever or the worst call ever seen.
It'll be one of the two.
Yep. No middle here. It's 94,000, 93,000. 1 second, I'm counting the chips. 93,000 and 400. Well, so the 3 made you.
But it's such a fine line between looking like a genius
Looking like a chump.
Well, if Benjamin calls this pot, calls this bet, Tom Dwan will go from down more than $300,000 to being up. And Benjamin will go from being our big winner to being down over 100,000. And he calls! I cannot believe it. He calls with ace king.
Said it was going to be either the best or the worst.
Or the best.
I don't think it's the worst call. I think he's read it. Putting Tom Dwan on maybe making a move. I think what you might realise is Tom Dwan hasn't been making those kind of moves for a few hours now. He seems to have sits back. He was a lot more comfortable. He possibly could have picked up on that. He's also had both Tom Dwan and Phil Ivey call him with an ace, and that's probably what's made him call this. He wants to be one of the big ace callers on the day, and unfortunately for him, it's cost.
At the FullTiltPoker.net $1 Million Cash game. And in all my years of watching poker and commentating on poker, I've never seen a game like this. Gary, help us out here.
Yeah, I think this is pretty unique. We've had some really big pots. We've had 3 incredible calls with ace high, 2 of them right, 1 of them wrong, all of them involving David Benjamin. And we've had Phil Helmuth storm out of the building in some sort of temper tantrum. I think he's walking the streets of London right now. And also one of the stories of the night is this man, Tom Dwan. He was about 300,000 down at one point. He's now ahead in the game and playing some incredible poker.
6,000 to play.
And certainly no surprise, Phil Ivey, who won season number 1 of the $1 Million Cash game, is our big leader. He's up over $400,000, and he's got a mind-boggling $1.2 million in front of him.
Who made the great play that I want? Which one? You make a statement. Name a spot.
And these are not tournament chips. This is real money. $1.2 million in front of you. Absolutely insane.
I mean, let me tell you something. When
David Benjamin, who was having a fantastic day, he's now stuck and doesn't look too happy either.
Yeah, stuck to the tune of $133,000 after being up $250,000. And he's not going to like that flop.
These 3 in,
Yeah,
a raise, 2 callers, and no one's got an ace.
Yeah, nothing really there for anybody. Ivey with the gut shot, plus the backdoor heart draw.
And
Dwan with the best hand right now, but we can see that Ivey is actually the favorite.
well, I think if you look up the percentages, there's going to be an awful lot of split pots where the kings are going to split it. I think the percentages are pretty irrelevant. Phil Ivey's won that one with the bet.
Professional poker player Gary Jones. We're 7-handed right now because Phil Helmuth has had some sort of temper tantrum and is walking the streets of London. We're not sure if he's coming back or not, but we know he's down over $300,000. Button in front of David Benjamin. Action over to JJ, John Juanda. And JJ's got the KJ.
Well, I think he's going to raise this one up. Kind of 1,600, maybe 2,000. 2,000's what he's decided to go.
Man, you're good, Gary.
It's a fairly standard raise, just over 3 times the big blind. Called from the button with David Benjamin. He doesn't need much to call in that kind of a spot. Tom Dwan calling out of the blinds. He hasn't needed much either most of today.
And he likes that kind of hand, doesn't he?
He certainly does. Phil Ivey's in this one as well. So it's 4 to the flop.
Well, it's all clubs there. Queen high.
But top 2 pair for Phil Ivey.
Now, Phil Ivey is very, very deep. He's got 1.2 million chips in front of him.
Well, they're not just chips, they're actually dollars. So
Thank you. Well said.
Up and down straight for David Benjamin. Bottom pair for Tom Dwan.
Benjamin also has the only club. Definitely got live draws here. And now he's got the flush, and it is good.
That's pretty well killed everyone else's hand, apart from a 2 pair draw to a full house for Phil Ivey.
And Ivey's 2 pair go up in flames here. He's going to need to catch a queen or a 9. The pot is nearly $9,000.
And bottom pair, Tom Dwan's going to have a little pop at this one.
Well, nobody bet on the flop. And I guess he's thinking, if nobody else wants the pot, I'll take it. Now, this is the interesting thing. Now, Dwan bets. If Ivey calls this, does that get rid of Benjamin's 7 of clubs?
I think it does. I think David Benjamin's probably going to lay this down. Yeah, very quickly. So, from not having a chance to win this one, Tom Dwan, he's now reduced to catching a 6. He hasn't managed it. Another decent-sized bet might be able to get rid of Phil.
And Dwan's bet actually helped Phil Ivey win this pot. Pot is $21,000.
Maybe he used his all,
Trying to decide whether he can get rid of Phil with another bet.
Ivey's called down of some of Dwan's bluffs already.
Yeah, not a familiar face to most television watchers, but I assure you this boy has played in the biggest games online and in Vegas as well.
And he really has played brilliantly today to get it back. He was down $300,000. Now he's up. Very imaginative player. And he checks, he can't pull the trigger.
Okay.
Tom Duan wanted to make the bet, dropped his chips and decided against it. Phil's happy to take the putt without having to make a difficult call.
He couldn't find the right amount. That was easy. Anything he was folding there.
I was just seeing if he's had. I was just going to see if he's going to bet again. 4 or 5 at heart. I had. I was going for the straight.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, but that would have bet.
One more time, you lie.
Huh?
No, he could have had it, but it would have bet.
Huh?
I said you could have had it, but it would have bet if I checked.
I would have bet if you checked 4 or 5 at heart. You're right.
We're at the FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game. Thank you for joining us. Tom Dwan, the kid poker here, the internet genius. And of course, that's Patrick Antonius. He's still down over $200,000.
Why wouldn't you go?
Now, you can't make a misclick in a live game.
Cool.
But dropping your chips, pretty much the closest thing to a misclick, isn't it?
It certainly is.
600, sir.
I have a better story.
Is that incredible?
I have a much better
Cool.
story, but I'm not going to tell it here.
3 more.
First of all,
That's
I
pretty
don't
fun.
remember
And Tom
why.
Dwan loves playing his button, even with a hand like Jack Deuce offsuit.
No raise.
That's right. I've heard so much.
No one raising it up. This one four-handed
On TV is always great to see.
and just about 3,000 in a pot.
If it's funny, you should say.
40 to 10.
If it's funny, you should say.
Phil Ivey with top pair.
First of all,
That's not going to stop Gus Hansen from betting. Gus Hansen with second pair, top kicker. He's got the ace-4 in his hands.
Hold 'em with me, like he's the great.
Get a call here from Dwan. Action over to Ivey.
This is the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, Tom Dwan's got bottom pair.
Roland told me that.
Not a lot, but he's also got position. And Phil's calling as well.
Well, Phil's got top pair. He also has the 8 of spades in case he comes running spades. Pot is now $10,000. And there's another 10. And that might get Gus Hansen in trouble now. He's got 2 pair with the ace kicker.
Yeah,
He might think he's good.
Exactly. With so little action before the flop, he doesn't probably give anyone a pocket pair. So that means it's less likely anyone else has got a 10.
And of course, Phil Ivey just checking and then calling. Certainly didn't play it like he had a 10.
Precisely. Yeah, Phil's definitely disguised his hand very well here.
Well, Phil checks again. Action over to Gus Hansen. And he bets.
The time? It's just about that. 7,700.
And Gus Hansen's going to bet 7,700.
Cool.
Dwan gets out of the way, and you get a call from Ivey. Pot is now $25,100 to the river.
card.
Hansen is drawing dead.
Queen.
And how does Phil Ivey extract the most value? Well, he's going to check it.
Did anybody get Phil? Anybody find him? We don't have to pay the bounty or what? We're drawn dead? Did anybody call him, text him? Somebody texted him and said we're willing to pay money for him to get back here. He might come.
Yeah, you could have just found him and said, hey, I'll give you $1,000 and then you collected 1,000 yourself.
Text him and said there's 10,000 sitting on the table for him to come play the next hour and a half.
I'm only giving him 1,000.
There's 3, 4, there's 7 of us. That's 1,000. I'll put up the other 3. Yeah, there you go.
Whoa. There you go.
We'll get 10,000.
All right,
for
if
him.
Patrick will give 5,000, I'll give 5,000 too.
Just somebody text him and say
that must
there's
mean that it's
10,000
worth it.
sitting on the table between everybody. If he comes back and plays the next hour and 40
If
minutes.
everybody gives him 5,000, he'll be almost even. Right?
No.
No, 5,000 each is too much.
65 more.
If we give them 2,000 each, that'd be 14,000, and that would be worth an hour and a half, for sure.
Well, he's making the value bet.
You know his ego wouldn't be able to say no to that.
No, his
If he
ego
answered
wouldn't.
the
That's what
phone.
I'm saying. Somebody text him and say that we're giving him 2,000 each to get back here.
And it looks
Phil's
like
calling
Phil-
very quickly. I don't blame him. He hasn't got a very strong 10. What's he going to get called with off Gus?
Pair of fours.
And Phil takes down another pot.
I think he's played that hand very cunningly.
Cement that was flown in from, what's that planet that Superman used to be on before it got blown up? No, Kryptonite. No, what was the name of the planet? Krypton, planet Krypton. He got that cement from planet Krypton, and he got that glued in there. And the only time when he has those losing days is when somebody puts kryptonite in front of his computer.
600 supply. Cost 600.
Button in front of Phil Ivey, up over $500,000.
Cool. I call.
Phil Ivey, how does he do it? Well, let's get to this
600
first.
suppose,
David Benjamin with the Cowboys.
Just limping.
Nice.
Hoping for a raise from somewhere so he can re-raise it. No one's obliging right now. And let's see if he's going to like the flop. Patrick Antonius hasn't decided not to raise yet. Oh, he's reaching for his chips.
Well, Benjamin's going to like this. And Patrick raises here out of the big blind with Jack 8.
I think he's just trying to get something working. Patrick's been very quiet all night. Doesn't think anyone's got anything with all the limpers from such aggressive players. He's about to find out that's not necessarily the case.
403.
And sure enough, you get the re-raise here
Raising 12.
from Benjamin.
That's probably going to get rid of the rest of the players.
15 total. 15.
obviously
Patrick Antonius is going to regret that 3,000 pot.
12,000 also.
Pot now $21,700, and it's $12,000 more to Antonius. And is this just one of those cases where you go, oops, and just toss your hand in the muck? Or do you think that maybe Benjamin is making a move if you're in Antonius' spot?
Well, you've got to appreciate these two boys are very, very deep. Patrick Antonius with over 500,000 in front of him, and David Benjamin with over 300,000 in front of them. So he might feel if he catches the right flop, he could get a lot of chips here. But still, for me, the 12,000's too much, and I'd be mucking it.
Of course, he is playing this hand out of position against a very, very tough opponent in David Benjamin. And he is going to call this.
He's going to call it. He's going to take a chance, see if he can catch some of the flop.
Pot is now $33,700 to the flop.
That was pretty ruthless, man.
Well, not much there for Antonius, but of course Benjamin, it's pretty much closed him out. He's got a set of kings.
I think David's going to be hoping that Patrick's got some sort of medium to strong ace. And I think he just wants to keep betting this one.
I said to him, I said, you know what, John, I'll be honest with you. I said,
No real point in slow playing this one, is there?
No, I think if you, in this kind of a spot, you're just kind of hoping your opponent's got some of it.
honestly, God, I swear, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
17. 17,000.
About half the pot.
Everybody wanted to book me nice until someone finally did.
Desperately trying to leave Patrick Antonius in this pot. Don't go anywhere is what David's screaming. But he can't get himself a customer, and he's going to take this one.
And Benjamin, finally something going right for him. Patrick Antonius still can't figure it out.
380 in one session, playing against the two worst Omaha 8 or better players in history, 1 and 2000. Anybody know who them two were?
And I'm playing on mine. There's like 6 tables of 2-4. And I got down
1,200 to place.
What'd you lose?
380.
Playing 2 and 4,000?
1 and 2.
How'd you play?
Well, I never won a hand.
If it's
I mean, if-
380, you should try 2-4. At least you can win
I
it.
mean, when you just never win one hand out of like 472,000 hands dealt.
You were just unlucky, probably.
Patrick Antonius on the button. Looks like he's reaching for some chips. And it's a raise from him. I
Last 150 I played.
think that was 5,000 to play.
My Z game. And I don't have a Z game.
And that makes it 4,700 to John Joanda. He's gone.
Nah, I guess your game starts at D.
No, like David Benjamin, he has a Z game. Gus has a Z game.
38, 38.
I don't know if Durr has a Z game. Durr's definitely got a D and an F.
On the internet?
I got a D. But I don't know if I have an A. I have a lot. I'm more of a C and a B.
I don't know 24 hours. The most I've been stuck is 1.9 in a session. But that lasted longer than 24 hours.
3-5
But that session doesn't count because I got even.
I mean, how good a poker player can you? I mean, can you imagine this game to get stuck 1.9 and then get even? I mean, can you? What?
Actually, I didn't get. I think I lost like 200.
But what was the limit to even get close to
I
even?
felt good.
The bet 10,000 from Patrick Antonius.
And Ivy's going to call this. Pot is now $32,800.
I remember that session. I think I remember that session. You ended up playing Chow and Sammy.
Turn card deuce.
Well, no help there, but Antonius is now open-ended. He can catch an ace or a 6. That's not a club. He has 6 outs.
Might take this opportunity to take the free card. He's also possibly thinking if Phil's got a big club in his hand, if he bets now, it gives him the opportunity to also bet on the river and maybe take the pot.
These two players combined for more than $1.8 million. Phil Ivey with the lion's share of it, though. And he decides to try to make the semi-bluff here. You like the play?
I don't think there's much wrong with it. It also adds a lot of mystery to his hand if he does catch the ace, for instance, or the 6 on the river. It's very unlikely Phil's going to give him that hand. Phil doesn't really know what he wants to hit.
Well, Ivy's called this. Pot is now nearly 80,000. There's the deuce of clubs. Antonius can barely beat the board. Phil Ivey, of course, with the flush.
Phil's checked it. He's left it with Patrick to make the decision. Does he want to keep betting?
Well, it's an automatic check for Phil Ivey, obviously. Pot is $78,800. Action on Patrick Antonius. And what are some of the thoughts that are running through his head right now? As he is down nearly $250,000.
He also knows if he checks, he can't win the pot. There's not a hand he can beat. He has the worst hand right now in the 4-7 of hearts. So a check is basically, here's 78,800, Phil. But you can't lose any more money with a check. And that's what he's decided. Phil's going to win this one with the 8 of clubs.
Flush, queen, 8 high. Pass.
And Phil Ivey adds to his ever-growing stack. When you're on a roll, you're on a roll.